The state of the world is changing rapidly, right? And that also means that the state in which we adapt our businesses and move towards our marketing engines and everything else are dramatically changing. The way we speak to customers, the way we have extra touch points with customers, the way we interact with them on a regular basis is changing. I want to kind of talk deeper with you today to really figure out, for accounting firms specifically, what are some of the methods, what are some of the ways to adapt into this new age, and how do we actually embed that into our systems so our data is secure and everything else. But yeah, happy to be here. Thanks so much.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so interesting because I saw a statistic not long ago that said people don't want to talk to salespeople, right? And even if you own an accounting firm, you're the managing partner or whatever, you're still in sales. And so people in general are about 80% of the way through the buyer's journey by the time they actually make that human connection for the first time. So, that kind of sounds a little scary and daunting. So we have to look at ways where we can automate a lot of
Yeah,
this
that
process.
is terrifying
Yeah.
because like if I'm going to buy something at the store, I already know 100% that I need something, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
walking in with the purpose. And then along the way I'll also pick up a candy bar, I'll also pick up like
Same.
the nice chocolate on the way. Sorry. But it's interesting that in B2B sales as well as like accounting sales, it's kind of like there's a commoditization to a lot of services that's
Yeah.
like, I know I need this every year, once a year, no matter what. And so I've already made the decision when it's the commodity side of the business that this is what I need. So I'm going to find a person that can help me do my taxes and just submit so I'm safe from the IRS. But then like when you make that switch from the commodity side into the things that many people don't know they need, which is like the advisory side,
Hmm.
things start to look a lot different, right?
Yes. Tax planning, those types of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, think about it like this. If you're one of those people that gets their taxes done, as most of us do, and you only speak to your accountant once a year and you're a business owner, can you imagine the level of stress that, I mean, small business owners, it is the most stressful time of year for them too. So my accountant is always like, no surprises, no surprises. And if you are planning throughout the year and leveraging your CPA for the advice you should be leveraging them for, then tax season is no big deal. It's just basically the output of everything that you've done all year. The issue there becomes if I'm a traditional CPA firm and I haven't had to have those sales conversations to help someone understand what they really need, it's different. I'm used to people just walking in because they need their tax return done or calling because they're kicking tires and wanting to know who can do it the cheapest. That's the commoditization that you're talking about. But because needs have changed, processes need to change also, and accountants are just buried in a pure volume of work. So knowing that, what is the best way to automate some of these things so that they can put a good sales process in place for capturing that monthly recurring revenue that they've not been capturing. And that's the key. Like, where do they start? How do they do that? And this is the conversation I have with a lot of firms. In fact, one this morning that we're just onboarding today, we had this conversation and he said, you know what? A few years ago, I would have told you we don't need marketing. We're never going to do marketing. And he said, but I had this
Right.
realization that two things. He said, one, we have all these clients that all we do is tax returns. And I have so much more to offer. And he said, we also have a lot of clients that we don't enjoy dealing with. He called them the PETA clients. And so he made a conscious decision a year ago to offboard all of those types of clients that were not a good fit for the firm, and came to us because he said, okay, now what? What do I do? How do I build this process so that and what we found was, as we're asking questions, because I love sales processes and sales frameworks and sales in general, the process was super broken. One thing that we found from him is they'll load a new sales prospect into their operational CRM, right? And from there I said, okay, so how do you send out a proposal through that CRM, then what? And he's like, well, there's two tasks. And one of the tasks was, well, no, that was one of the tasks, send out a proposal. And the next one was onboard. And I said, yeah, but how do you follow up with these prospects, right? How do you make sure that you're following up while that deal is still hot? Because in sales, time kills deals. And
Yes.
he's like,
Yep.
oh, we don't do that. He goes, when I have time. And I'm like, okay, all right, we're going to fix that. And then the other question was, I said, how many prospects do you have where they're just not ready? Maybe they're a good fit for you, but for whatever reason, the deal goes sideways and you're like, dang it. You look at that as a loss in your mind. what are you doing? And he said, mm, would they just kind of go out the door? And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
so, and this is a firm, phenomenal managing partner. He is looking, he would like to be a $10 million firm. Right now they're two, and he has very aggressive goals. And I have no doubt he'll get there because he's a great leader.
Hmm.
He knows his stuff. And, I think a big chunk of their business can be architected by just putting the right processes in place around and the right sales frameworks in place and automating those.
In the traditional marketing funnel, you have your awareness bucket, your intent bucket of finding if somebody actually is interested in your product. And then there's this giant bucket that's overlooked
Mhm.
before the conversion, which is nurturing, right?
Yes.
And I think like
Yes.
a lot of people tend to skip over that because either A, it's not top of mind, or B, it's like, hey, if it's not the right time for somebody, then I'll reach out to them in 6 months and see if it is. But the
Yeah.
reality is, like, in that nurture bucket, so much can happen, especially in today's world where so many more touch points are required to convert somebody.
Yes.
So much can happen from an automation and from a stream flow of streamlined systems and everything else inside of that to help convert or meet the person where they're at every single step. So you're the person that they know they need
Mhm.
when they're ready to make that switch. To me, the nurture bucket is more about building trust. I mean, really, the whole funnel needs to be, how are we building more trust with somebody, right? But
Right.
to me specifically, the nurture one is, instead of just saying, hey, come buy my stuff, hey, I'm here to buy your stuff, or for you to buy my stuff. It's more of a, how can I continue to build trust from a human standpoint with this person as best as possible? Maybe it's an automated text sent out on their birthday saying, hey, happy birthday, I hope you're doing great. And
Yes.
that doesn't seem or feel automated in any way, shape, or form. And so
Right.
like there's these micro methods that you can slowly start to adapt and build into these firms that exponentially builds on each other as almost like building blocks, if you would,
Mhm.
that helps build the staircase for an easier sales conversion. One of those is obviously content.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about the nurture bucket itself? Because I
Yeah.
know like it's something that's overlooked so much.
Oh my gosh, yes. It is overlooked, I would venture to say in the 90% of the time for accounting firms, because for a couple of reasons. One, I think that accountants are by nature sales averse, right? So they're like, oh, I don't want to feel pushy, but they do want to be chosen. They want to be liked. And so I like to tell people, look, there's a difference between being liked and being chosen, right? And if you want to be chosen to be the firm to, for this business, you've got to stay in front of them. There are a million reasons why someone might not choose you at a certain time. It can be kind of emotional to break up with your accountant, right? Or there's a lot of other reasons. Maybe they got sticker shock that they weren't expecting. That's even more of a reason to continue to nurture them. But I think in addition to worrying about feeling pushy, a lot of accountants that I talk to are like, well, I don't even know. I don't know how to nurture. I don't know what to say to someone. This is where automating that and like planning that out and having, say, 2 emails a month that just go out to that warm prospect list until they unsubscribe, that can come in really handy. And with those, let's just say 2 emails a month, or the random SMSs to say happy birthday, or happy business anniversary, I was just thinking about you, let me know if there's anything we can do to help you. That's very kind. It's good business networking. But also, if you're sending out nurture emails, I always encourage accountants to think about the aspect of a did you know? Are you giving these prospects little nuggets of value that perhaps they're not hearing from their own CPA? Because at one point, they're going to open up that email and go, oh my goodness, this is important to me. Why didn't I hear this from my CPA? And that could trigger them to make the phone call. A perfect case in point is we have another firm that I've been working with for years, and we started a couple of years ago a nurture campaign so that every single time they have a deal that comes into the firm that for whatever reason doesn't move forward, or they ghost or whatever, they automatically drop into a sequence where they get a bi-monthly email. And it's short, it's aesthetically pleasing, it offers high value, and they've actually captured a significant amount of clients from that. So imagine if they didn't have anything like that, and this is a growing firm, if they didn't have that in place, those people are going to go somewhere, and they're probably going to go to their competition. So I feel like that's a really easy hole to plug for accountants, if accountants who are wanting to grow their business. That's low hanging fruit right there.
I 100% agree. Something that is brought up is there's good sales and bad sales, right?
Mhm.
Like bad sales is I'm going to keep knocking on your door trying to get you to sign this petition until you sign it. And then there's the side of sales which I wouldn't even consider sales, which is I'm just getting in front of this person as much as possible by whatever means I can in a way that is a non-intrusive way to build trust through providing value. And I think
Yes.
that's exactly what you're trying to say there
Yes.
is emails and calls and text messages and all the other touch points you want. Even social media is now an extra touch point. All these touch points aren't annoying to the end customer if it adds value to their life.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm a huge fan of the challenger sales methodology. So anyone who's listening or watching, that's a great book if you haven't read it. And you can translate that into your messaging in a lot of ways. Part of the challenger sales methodology is teaching. And I think that accountants are in the perfect position to teach and impart knowledge in the form of tax strategies, things like that. And people hold that in high regard. There's a lot of value in someone answering the question of, should I buy a car with my business? Or, the common questions that come up. If you're the one that is addressing those questions that are on everyone's mind, you're going to be the one that ultimately is chosen. But that's all part of also building trust, which, was really where we started this conversation is if you can be out there visibly building trust through one of those touch points, whether it's social media, whether it's FAQs on your website, whether it's a nice, juicy, high value nurture campaign, you are a trusted advisor. That's what you should be doing. And people have to trust their accountants. And I think that you're going to accelerate the sales process and have a steady, predictable stream of new sales revenue if you can be covering all of these touch points by just putting good content out there.